Welcome guys, it's time for Duel 61, and this is deck request number 10. This is the first deck request ever since I reorganized my deck requests, because I all had them written down on a paper, like small and big, and it was a chaos. So I just put them in order, and I'm going to do them all in order. Now, about the duel immediately, first I make a kind of a misplay here. I should have summoned Skilled Dark Magician first, then played Spellbook of Secrets, then Secret Village, then Solidarity, so that I would have a 3300 attack Dark Magician on the field. I didn't. I already resolved Spellbook of Secrets, so I decided not to do that. Anyway, this deck request is from someone you Dueling Network people should definitely have heard of by now, my friend junkberserker112. He asked me quite a long time ago to make a Spellcaster lockdown deck. Now, this deck I've been sort of pushing back quite a lot because it just wasn't working. The deck went through 4 quite different versions, and none of them really worked the way I wanted it to. One of them was too situational, one of them just didn't work, one of them was too inconsistent, and the fourth one, I don't even know how to explain it, but that just all didn't work the way I wanted it to. So I spoke to junkberserker about that because I didn't want to do it, and he was the first one on my list that I wrote down. And he said, you know, I don't want to make it too difficult for you, just make it a regular Spellcaster deck. And then we did say to each other that we're going to make the focus on the type Spellcaster. No archetype thing, so no prophecy, gravekeepers, like that kind of focus, an archetype that is Spellcaster, and no focus on just Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. Even though I do have 3 Skilled Dark Magicians and 2 Dark Magicians, it's not, the focus of the deck doesn't lie on that. The focus lies on the entire Spellcaster type, and that's what I wanted to do with junkberserker112, and I did that, so here we are. And actually, there is actually a lockdown in this deck. There is, because I do have Secret Village of the Spellcasters, and if the user of the field spell, which is me in this case, controls a Spellcaster, which I do often, and the opponent does not, and the opponent barely ever has Spellcasters, and the opponent can't play any spell cards, can't activate any of them. But if I don't control any Spellcasters, and that does happen at some point, then I can't play spells, which is kind of annoying because I have a lot of spells in my deck. Almost half of my deck is spell cards, but I have ways to get my Spellcasters back. And in this duel, I was actually kind of afraid that it wasn't going to work. But as you saw, he had Blackwing, Blizzard, and Icarus attacks. So I was like, summon a monster. That's all I can do because I couldn't activate any of my spells due to my own field spell. But then he used Icarus attack, got rid of my monster, but also my field spell. And I was like, thank you. And he didn't know what I meant, but then I could play Monster Reborn, I could play Solidarity, and I had a good monster on the field. And here I was like, I could summon Dark Magician this turn, but then the effect of Spellbook of Power would go lost. So I was like, Spellbook of Power this turn, Dark Magician after. Play Spellbook of Power, Skilled Dark Magician gets more attack, destroys his monster, which is Fayu. Spellbook of Power's effect activates, adding a spellbook from my deck to my hand, and I pretty much always go for Spellbook of Secrets, unless I already used that card that turn, because then with Spellbook of Secrets I can search out any other spellbook, which is Spellbook of Wisdom and Spellbook of Power are the other spellbook spells I have, and that way I thin my deck out 1 more card, meaning the chances of getting that specific card that I might need in a certain situation a little bigger. Now here I have 3 spell counters, so here comes the Dark Magician. And I play Spellbook of Wisdom face down, just in case he has something to destroy me, but he plays Night Beam, so Spellbook of Wisdom didn't survive for very long. And then he has Neospatian Grand Mole, getting rid of my Dark Magician. I was like, ah, dang it. Would have liked to have effect failure here. But yeah, Dark Magician returns to my hand, and I'm like, you know, he does have an open field. If I can just get a Spellcaster of at least 500 attack, or well, any spellcast that I can normal summon, then I win, because Solidarity gives 800, Spellbook of Power gives another 1,000. I draw Magician's Valkyria. I'm like, Vanguard style, final turn, summon it, just attack, win. Thank you, Ken87, for the duel. Let's go into the deck profile. Hey guys, we are here for the deck profile, and as you can see, I once again used an avatar that is fitting to the deck. I used 2 Magician's Valkyrias because I wanted a picture of multiple Spellcasters, and I couldn't really find really good ones, so I was like, there's a chance I might get the 2 Valkyrias out, so I'll just use those, because I have 2 Valkyrias in my deck. And I did talk about the lockdown in the duel. I didn't quite finish it, because I also have Royal Decree. You just didn't see it in the duel. And then if you get both Magician's Valkyrias on the field, they can't play spells. They can't, their effects of their traps are negated, and they can't attack you. At least not any Spellcasters, and I only have Spellcasters. So unless they somehow destroy them with with monster effects or can attack directly, they can't do anything. But yeah, let us go into the deck. This deck has gone through a good amount of versions, because except for Gravekeepers, I really never used specifically the Spellcaster type in a competitive deck. So I made my first version, which was not that good. It was decent, and asked on the forums for suggestions. And there was 2 people, but one guy in particular, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. But I'll put him, like, I'll give him a shout out, and send him the link to this video as well, because he definitely helped with this. He gave me some really good suggestions on what to take out, what to put in, and also why. Because I definitely, like, it was very important to know why. You can just, take out 3 of this spell, put in 2 of this spell, and 1 of this trap. I'm like, why? I can sort of see the use and everything, but I can also see the use in the other cards. Like, why not those cards, and why those cards? I wanted to know that, and he explained them very well. Possibilities of inconsistency and combos and everything. I really appreciate it. Okay, now into the deck. Oh yeah, whatever. If you would like to see all the different versions of the deck that this deck has gone through, like 4 or 5, I believe, please comment that, and then I'll just put a link to that Dueling Network forum topic in the description, and you can just look at all the different versions, because I kept the screenshots from all different versions over there. Alright, let us do this. I have 2 copies of Dark Magician. I have never tribute summoned Dark Magician. I just bring it out by either Magical Dimension or by Skill Dark Magician. I have 3 breakers, because with its counter it's 1900 attack, and it can take out a spell or trap for a cost of 300 of its attack points. And then would I have a Crusader on the field with its effect, I can always give Breaker back his 300 attack and its effect. Chaos Sorcerer, it was limited to 1, so I could only really use 1. Otherwise I definitely would have had one instead of Dark Red Enchanter, because I like Dark Red Enchanter, but I don't really tribute some of that often, so I probably will replace Dark Red Enchanter with something. In the original version of this deck, this was a Dark Magician Girl, but since I took out Sage's Stone and like the Dark Magician Girl support cards, I decided to go for another one. There was a Prophecy spellcast that I was thinking about this one too, so I'll probably replace this, but just like normal, I'll just put an annotation if I replace anything. Crusader of Endymion, a Gemini monster, and if it's normal summoned like for the 2nd time to get its effect, once per turn, then you can place a spell counter on a card that you can place a spell counter on. So that's Skill Dark Magician and Breaker. And then Crusader gets, I believe, 500 attack until the end phase. Oh, 600. That's even better. Now I have Dark Red Enchanter, and when it's normal summoned, it gets 2 spell counters, and for every spell counter, you gain 300 attack, so that's at 2300. And then possibly Crusader could add another one. And then once per turn, you can get rid of 2 of its spell counters and discard a card from the opponent's hand. And that might just be useful. I just haven't been able to use it yet, so as I said, I'll probably get rid of it. I'll see. 2 Effect Failure, very useful spellcaster, one of the most used ones, if not the most used spellcaster, because, you know, you should know why. Magician's Valkyria, because they're pretty good, and they block attacks, and they can be part of the lockdown if you get both these out, then Spellcasters and Royal Decree. Skill Dark Magician, already talked about that and showed it in the duel. Summoner Monk here, mostly for Xyz summoning, but due to solidarity, I don't Xyz summon that often because I believe only two of my I have 3 Spellcaster Xyz monsters, but none of them are rank 4. I don't Xyz summon that often due to solidarity, but I don't get Summoner Monk that often either. And like the last 3 times I got it, they were in a situation where I could only place it in defense mode. I didn't have any other monsters or other spells to use its effect. But it can go into Xyz, but then just I have to watch out with solidarity. I have Dark Hold to get rid of monsters, Heavy Storm to get rid of spells and traps. They're staples. Magical Dimension to tribute a Spellcaster, special summon a new one, which means I can just get Dark Magician out without tributes. Well, one tribute the Spellcaster on my field, but not a tribute summon. And that I can destroy a monster in the field. So this is very helpful if like someone plays like Dimensional Prison. I can save, let's say, Skill Dark Magician, get a new monster on my field, and I can destroy one of his monsters, like to get an open field for a direct attack instead of a regular attack from Skill Dark Magician. Monster Reborn to, well, reborn a monster. Pot of Duality to search for stuff. Secret Village of Spellcasters to help with the lockdown to make the opponent unable to use spells, which has proven quite helpful. Can be a little annoying if you don't have any Spellcasters yourself, because even with Royal Decree on the field, if you can just get a good summon out with monster effects like Tinplate Goldfish, Machina Fortress, and they get rid of your Spellcaster, it might get really difficult for you. 2 Solidarity to power up my Spellcasters with 800 attack, and that has proven very useful in previous duels. 2 Spellbook of Powers to gain 1000 attack until the end phase, and search a new spellbook when you destroy a monster by battle. 3 Spellbook of Secrets to search another spellbook. I have 2 Spellbook of Power and 1 Wisdom. I have another Wisdom in my side deck, but because of Secret Village and Royal Decree, I don't see myself using Wisdom that often. That's why it's only 1. I have Terraforming to search for Secret Village, would I not have it. And then, of course, Royal Decree to block any traps. In the extra deck, I have mostly Xyz monsters, but I have a few Synchros. Because I have Effect Veiler, I can use Synchros. Ally of Justice Cataster is Effect Veiler plus any of my level 4s. Same for Magical Android. It doesn't have like the effect that Cataster has, but it has a little more attack and it can heal, which can be good if you want. But it's mostly there because it has a little more attack. Archetype Magician is for Dark God Enchanter and Chaos Sorcerer. Usually it's Chaos Sorcerer plus Effect Veiler. I have Arcanite in a few of my other decks as well that use both Veiler and Chaos Sorcerer. I just combine the two and then Arcanite. Like, I barely ever use Veiler as a tuner for a Synchro Summon. Not many people do that, not often anyway, but it can happen. And then Trap Dragon would the Dark Magicians feel like doing a Synchro Summon with Veiler. Then, as Xyz mods, I have Evil Swarm Nightmare. I've added this card to a few of my decks lately because I've noticed that it can be quite useful. And I have quite a few dark monsters, so why not? Gaga Gunman, a card I've really started to like. Not really strong, but for some reason I quite often get into situations lately that just those 800 damage from its defense position effects can finish it off, the duel, which is really good. And once it has also saved me from a really powerful monster with the attack position effect, like making a 1500 attack point difference. I have Photonite Palladius, which I definitely like, can get rid of big monsters, and it needs 2 light monsters, and I have Crusader for that, and Valkyria. Black Shippocorn to get rid of Zenmains, Gotchi, that kind of stuff, without them being able to save themselves. Utopia, should be obvious, threw in a Utopia Ray. Gemini Pearl for the highest attack, Xyz monster that requires 2 level 4s. Mudgy Magician Girl, I only have 2 level 6s, Dark God Enchanter, Chaos Sorcerer, so I might do something about that, don't know yet, but I'll put an annotation when that happens. Photon Strike Bouncer, same story as Girl. Then I have Big Eye and Hierophant of Prophecy. Dark Magician is the only one that can work with that. Also, well, Arcanite, if you take Sorcerer Enchanter with Veiler. But I haven't gotten any of these out yet, so if it shows that I pretty much never get these out. I might swap them out for some more rank 4s because I just use them more often. And as I said, I don't exceed that often, so I'll think about it. If I find that some need to be replaced, I'll do it. In the extra deck, I have 2 Kaisu because I didn't want to keep with Spellcasters, and this can definitely be a good side card because it banishes cards from the opponent's graveyard, making the opponent unable to make use of those cards, like getting rid of Insect or Hornet, for example. That can be quite devastating, especially now that Hornet is limited. 2 Maxi to draw new cards. 2 MSC to get rid of spells and traps. Smashing to destroy monsters. Another Spellbook of Wisdom to save myself from spells and traps. I have 3 Upstart Goblin. The reason I have this is because I just want to draw cards, thin my deck out, get counters for Skill Dark and Dark Red. And then the opponent does gain some life points, but that way I thin my deck out, and, well, I can do some stuff. And Safe Zone to save myself. I haven't used this myself, really, but multiple people, 2 people have suggested to use Safe Zone in the deck. I just haven't put it in because I usually use Royal Decree, but if I feel that Royal Decree doesn't really work against a certain opponent, I'll just swap it out for Safe Zone, and definitely another spellbook so I can save myself from traps, and do that. Alright guys, that was it for the deck request for Spellcasters. junkberserker112, you are now free to make a new deck request, and I'll put you at the bottom of the list and get to you again when all the others are done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.